6 p.m. in Betoua, that is in the east region of Cameroon. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining me on this edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. For presentation, I am Immaculate Fogwe. 2 persons have died in a fatal road accident on the Wuri Bridge in Bonaberi Douala Falls subdivision this morning. The 2 victims were on board a motorcycle and were crushed by a private vehicle coming from the opposite direction. We have greater details in this edition of the news. And retired Supreme Court Judge and former Member of Parliament Barrister Ayapola Bine decries the violation of its rights. For over 5 years, his bank accounts have been frozen and his pension suspended. For 2 years now, Barrister Ayapola Bine has been stuck on his wheelchair due to his deteriorating health condition. We have details in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast. Thank you so much for choosing Equinoxe television. You made the right choice. As I said, retired Supreme Court Judge Barrister Aya Bine decries a violation of his rights by the government of Cameroon. He has been living in a very difficult situation after some persons within the governance mechanism unknown to him took what is qualified as inhumane decisions, depriving him of his rights and source of livelihood. Babila Jonathan reports on his deteriorating health condition.
This is all me.
Since he went on retirement as judge of the Supreme Court of Cameroon, former member of the lower house of parliament, Barrister Ayapola Bine, has not received his pension for close to 7 years. Even in his unstable health situation, seen only with his right eye, under the weight of a cardiac malaise, and confined to a wheelchair since 2022, his pension remains blocked.
I climbed the judicial ladder to the top, got to index 1,400. Nobody goes beyond. Saved my country for at least 4 decades, only to end up the way I am. I'm unable to foot my medical bills because not only has my pension been retained by the government, without any reason, without even informing me.
His health began failing after he was arrested and detained for 223 days and later released without any charge. This was followed by the freezing of his bank accounts.
For over 5 years now, my bank accounts have been frozen. Nobody has told me why they were frozen. In fact, nobody has told me my accounts were frozen. I went to withdraw money to buy my medicines, only to find that I could not do it. And the bank informed me orally that they had been ordered to freeze my account.
All efforts to obtain solutions to his plight, including writing to his former colleagues of the Supreme Court and to the President of the Republic, have been fruitless till now.
And we will be analyzing the inhumane treatment meted on the retired Supreme Court Judge in the second part of this newscast. Away from that, a commercial bike rider and his passenger were crushed to death on the River Wuri Bridge this Monday morning by a private vehicle. Meantime, a suspected bandit who have been terrorizing the population in Bipanda neighborhood, Douala 5 subdivision, have been arrested by the police. They are presently in detention awaiting trial. We have details in this report compiled by Malaglory.
The bike rider died on the spot while his passenger gave up the ghost on their way to the Bonasama hospital. This is as a result of an accident that occurred on Monday morning on the Wuri Bridge, Douala 4 subdivision. It involved a commercial bike rider that lost control on the railway and ran into a private vehicle which crushed him to death. The shocked population alerted security forces who arrived at the scene for investigations. Still on Monday, 8 suspected bandits were arrested. They are accused of constantly terrorizing residents of Bipanda Misoke neighborhood and its environs. They have been arrested by the 10th Police District. This is following numerous complaints from the inhabitants that police officers launched an investigation.
We have noticed a lot of cases of aggression in the Misoke block those last week, and especially between the wall of 5 to 11, where people complain cases of aggression. But the one more serious was the aggression of a barrister who was getting back home after a safe journey, and he had been caught by a lot of people armed of broken bottle, knife, cutlass, and he had been seriously injured, seriously wounded. He went to the hospital where the surgeon told him that he had been lucky because the knife touches the lungs. Unfortunately, he's alive. He came and we took his statement. He told us the story that happened to him that day. Those people are accused of aggressing people, many people.
Victims testify of being attacked by the suspected bandits. More to this, harmful and some items they stole from their prey were seized. Amongst them are alleged drug traffickers.
We also have somebody dealing cannabis, a lot of cannabis, as you can see. Today, I think the population of Misoke can sleep safely with a lot of insurance. So we continue the fight because they told us that there are so many running outside there, and we will get back on the field to catch them all.
The suspects are presently in detention, awaiting trial.
We'll leave the Lithura region now to the North region, where traders in Gaundé in the Adamawa region are expressing indignation over the significant increase in the price of basic commodities for the past months. They say the situation is currently affecting them, especially during this fasting period. Reacting to their plight, the regional delegate for Commerce warns all traders who go against the fixed prices set by the Ministry of Commerce of possible sanctions. We have more with AC Luciliengo.
Few days into fasting for the month of Ramadan, prices of basic commodities continue to skyrocket in markets in Gaundé in the Adamawa region, a situation which is challenging for the common man.
Le citoyen lambda ne parvient pas à trouver de quoi entamer son Ramadan avec, puisque le prix des denrées ayant augmenté.
Helen Mekune, a trader in the market popularly known as Petit Marché in Gaundé, says the price of beans has increased. A cob before now was sold at 500 francs, but today it costs 800 francs.
Le haricot à l'époque, c'était comme ça, là on vendait la tasse même à 500 francs, mais actuellement c'est 800 francs.
Aside beans, the prices of cereals, granules and other perishables have equally increased.
À ce moment, si on vendait les arachides à 350, mais les arachides coûtent maintenant à 450.
The president of the APDC Consumer Rights Group in the Adamawa region says the price of rice has increased because of the scarcity caused by some traders. He says some traders go against the rules put in place by the Minister of Commerce.
Et pourquoi outrepasser les prix fixés par le ministère pour vendre juste parce qu'on a besoin d'être mercantile? C'est pas gentil.
To put a stop to these malpractices, the regional delegate of Commerce assures the population that his collaborators will visit various markets for price control.
Assurer l'assainissement du marché et susciter l'approvisionnement en produits de première nécessité.
However, the population of the Adamawa region hope that the measures underway will curb the rising prices which is affecting their living conditions.
Over to politics. The national president of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement political party, Professor Maurice Kamto, has called for the prosecution of Cameroonians promoting the candidacy of President Paul Biya ahead of the 2025 presidential elections. The opposition party leader says calling on President Paul Biya to stand again as president of Cameroon is elders abuse and promoters should be prosecuted for elders abuse. He also frowns at an attempt to reverse the electoral calendar in Cameroon while calling on their series of consequences. Fomiam Shongsanda reports.
In a statement published on Friday, March 15, 2024, the CRM national president, Professor Maurice Kamto denounces what he calls maneuvers by the government aimed at reversing the electoral calendar, that is, to organize the presidential election before the holding of municipal and legislative elections in Cameroon. In the initial calendar, these latest elections are scheduled to hold in February 2025 and the presidential election in October 2025. Maurice Kamto says in his text that this inversion, which he believes to be more than plausible, will have the first consequences on the institutional level, either the extension of the mandates of regional councillors or the election of new regional councillors by municipal councillors without an elective mandate, a scenario which he says will dirty the legitimacy of these institutions, rendering them undemocratic. On the political level, Maurice Kamto asserts that holding the presidential election before the municipal and legislative elections will be the concrete translation of the panic which would have spread to the ranks of the ruling CPDM party, a party which for him is in an impasse in tatters and owes its salvation only to the maintenance in all eternity of its president at the top of the state. Maurice Kamto even suggests that those still promoting President Paul Biya's candidacy for 2025 should be prosecuted for elder abuse, a statement without pretense or artifice widely commented on social networks across Cameroon. Some welcome it as a timely exit, and others on their part evoke panic installed in the ranks of the CRM political party. They say that the party, having boycotted the municipal and legislative elections of 2020, does not have an elected official, a situation which they say might compromise the candidacy of its leader in the next presidential election.
Political Desk reporter Fomi Armstrong Sander reporting there. Away from politics, 13 countries across Africa experienced internet outages on Thursday due to damage of submarine fiber optic cables. Some countries, including Cameroon, Ghana, and Nigeria, are still suffering from the nationwide outages. More with Cedric Chakutu.
Since Thursday, March 14, 2024, many countries in West and Central Africa are almost completely deprived of internet. According to a report from NetBlocks, an organization specialized in cybersecurity, the serious disruptions to the internet connection suffered by millions of consumers in recent days in Cameroon as well as in several other African countries are due to major incidents on the cables on the Marine Optimal Fiber, WAX, SAT3 and Main1, which are the main providers of internet access in sub-Saharan countries. Côte d'Ivoire, where the outage initially occurred, is also the country mostly affected. The outage was almost complete when the incident occurred, leaving no possibility for MTN and Orange subscribers to connect. In other countries such as Liberia, Benin, Ghana, Burkina Faso, the percentage of connectivity remained quite low, hovering between 14 to 35%. Togo, Gabon, Cameroon, Niger and Nigeria, however, suffered less severe inconveniences, connectivity ranging from 42 to 72% and 58% for Cameroon if we refer to the NetBlocks description. If the impact is so considerable, it is because to date, 99% of global internet traffic passes through submarine cables, submarine optical fiber cables, which extend over 1.3 million kilometers or more than 33 times around the Earth. Note that some telecommunications in Cameroon assure their subscribers that internet is gradually reinstated.
And now we talk something else. An air quality expert and an expert in climate change, pollution and renewable energy says more people die in cosmopolitan cities like Douala and Yaoundé because of the polluted air they breathe in. According to them, death rate and the number of cancer patients are higher in these cosmopolitan cities. Thus, urgent need to take quick action by the government, the population and other stakeholders. Innocent Aze tells us more.
Air pollution accounts for deteriorating health conditions of Cameroonians in cosmopolitan cities like Douala, Yaoundé, for instance.
Douala is really a polluted city. You know, the quality of transportation is very bad in Douala. you have motorbike, truck, taxis, you have and so on, and most of that is the car of second hand. That means the quality of the foam, the dust is very bad.
Inhaling smoke emitted in the atmosphere by cars, motorbikes, industries, combined with the pungent smell from waste littered around, intoxicates the health of the population, exposing them to deadly diseases like cancer.
I would say that 80% person facing with cancer come from the quality of air. And the bad aspect is that when you breathe it, the impact is not immediate. You will feel it after 20 years. That you have to take care of it now to avoid to face the problem when you are old. And more than that, when you breathe the bad quality of air, you reduce your lifetime by 2 or 5 years.
Air quality scientists from Uganda are in Cameroon amidst the growing risk.
We see that almost every city in Africa, the air quality levels actually exceed what is considered to be healthy, the WHO, the World Health Organization guidelines, by many folds, in some instances even up to 10, up to 4, up to 5 times the health guideline. So we definitely need to work together. Unfortunately, it varies because air quality keeps on changing, because our activities also keep on changing, demand will keep changing, and that's why we need to work together to tackle the air pollution problem so that we have a healthy population and a prosperous population and a vibrant environment, a vibrant city, a vibrant economy.
The success of this relies on 4 pillars: work together, monitor air pollution, raise awareness with data collected, and institutional capacity building.
And the African Union Inter-African Phytosanitary Council is stepping up efforts to enhance plant protection from pests and diseases on the continent. This will boost agricultural yields, enhance trade, and improve on standards of living in the various sub-regions. We have details once more by Innocent Aze.
Famine in Cameroon and most African countries is said to be mainly instigated by poor and low yields. This because crops often suffer attacks from pests.
Our capacity needs to be reinforced in the first place because our region lack a lot of means and tools to handle or tackle all of these diseases.
It is in a bid to reverse the situation in the African Union member states that the 17th hybrid session of Steering Committee of the African Union Inter-African Phytosanitary Council held in Douala.
This International Phytosanitary Council handles all issues that are related to plant health. When we talk about plant health or phytosanitary, it is something that is related to protecting crops from pests and disease so that those crops can be safely used as our food but also exported safely for trade.
Though faced with limited human capacity, constant invasion of plants by pests, the AU Inter-African Phytosanitary Council still boasts of its recent achievements.
In 2023, we have achieved a lot. Put in place a 15-year plan. It's called the Plant Health Strategy for Africa. In that strategy, the office aims to achieve a vibrant and robust plant health system for the continent to ensure that this continent can benefit from the agricultural production, and also to make sure that the continent is able to feed itself but also make money from agriculture. Last year we have also been able to train over 44 member states in terms of pest identification or pest risk analysis or things like electronic certification that we call e-phytos.
In this come together, efforts of all stakeholders are expected to be galvanized to build all necessary infrastructures to detect the pest at the plant level and to see how they can be mitigated.
And now on our sad page, 10 years after the death of music icon Lambo Sano Pierre Roger, aka Lapiro of Banga, an ecumenical service was organized over the weekend in his memory. During the ecumenical service, the clergyman called on God to continue protecting the family of Lapiro de Banga. Magic Gabriel tells us more about this icon who left us 10 years ago.
It was a weekend of remembrance for the iconic music star Lapiro Dumbanga as he clocked 10 years since he passed on. At his quarter 12 neighborhood in Banga in the Mongo division, his first son organized an ecumenical service in his honor. For me, my father is not yet dead. Since his body is not yet here, it's only when the body will be brought here that I will believe he's really gone. The ecumenical service was an opportunity for the man of God to request that God should continue to guide the family in the absence of the leader. Responding to us about a contrary information on the non-celebration of the death of Lapirodun Banga, the son told us, "We have not been refused from celebrating our father's death anniversary. No one in my family has refused me, but every member of my family is behind me." Lapirodun Banga died on March 16, 2024 in New York, United States of America.
And still on our sad page, mourners have described the former president of the Cameroon Football Federation as a man who was filled with wisdom. The mourners were speaking at Yankalang village, that is in Mwanko, as an official funeral ceremony was organized to bid farewell to His Majesty Etotoke Epune Albert. Smajikan Gable reports.
Yakalak village in Mwanko in the Sanaga Maritime Division brought together a host of top government officials alongside former players of the national football team as they came to pay homage to the former president of the Cameroon Football Federation, who doubled as chief of Yakalak village. His Majesty Etotoke Epune Albert was described by some key speakers during the funeral as a man who was filled with wisdom. In 1990, the Lions then was accommodating, thanks to the tact and wisdom of His Majesty Albert. He managed all of the situation within the den and made the team conquering that was capable of getting results. The results which became special to Cameroon in the 90s. His Majesty Albert was a wise citizen. He used it to calm tempers when our sessions were tensed. As the Secretary General of the Regional Council, His Majesty contributed to the emergence of the Regional Council. His Majesty Etotoke Epune Albert, who was FECAFOOT's president in the 90s, was remembered for playing a key role in the success story of the senior men's national team to the quarterfinal of the FIFA World Cup. I recalled the 1990 era when I saw the likes of Albert Roger Miller, Eugene Ekeke, Ndip Akem. It gave the funeral a special touch. The team that recently lost in Côte d'Ivoire should learn from their seniors. A special frame having the shirt of the 1990 Indomitable Lions was given to the family of His Majesty Etotoke Epune Albert to remember his success story as the president of the Cameroon Football Federation.
And that's it for the first part of the news. Talking Point is up next. And with me on Talking Point tonight is Barrister Tamfu Richard, and I'll be discussing about the treatment meted on the retired Supreme Court Judge, Barrister Ayapola Bini. He's also the former member of Parliament and founder of the Populist Action Party. Good evening, Barrister. It is a pleasure having you on Talking Point tonight.
Good evening to all those who are watching. It's a pleasure for me to be on your set today.
Barrister, a former Supreme Court judge, former member of Parliament, and founder of the Popular Action Party, PAP, Justice Ayapola Bini, while speaking on the news tonight, says for the over 5 years his account has been frozen and his 7 years pension has been retained. Despite his poor health condition, he's left to suffer on his wheelchair without a dime. How can a government decide to sit on someone's money for 5 years?
You have rightly put up your question. I think there is no other word to qualify such an attitude from a government that we are deemed to believe that Cameroon is a state of law, and I think that in every state of law we should strive as much as possible to respect human rights and to ensure that the rule of law should prevail at all times. To believe that someone has worked has served this government with the kind of portfolio that you just highlighted, and that his salary has been frozen without any justified reason. And we should also note here that it is not like as if it's a favor that government wants to give him. This money that he hardly earned it, he deserved it, and it was reserved or cut by the government as his savings, so that when he retires he can benefit from it. So the government unduly withdrawing it or withholding it is really encroaching and sending him to his early grave, because this is killing somebody alive, and I don't understand which kind of justification can be put to justify this kind of attitude of the government. So it's incomprehensible, and I don't think this is how we should treat a human being, especially people who tend to qualify as persons in their third ages.
Barrister Tampo Richard, Justice Ayapola Bine also made mention of the fact that he was kidnapped from his residence in Yaoundé and kept in captivity for 223 days without being charged. One fateful morning, he is asked to walk back home while in detention. He lost his left eye, and developed a cardiac arrest. Can this case be considered as violations of human rights, and why is no one saying anything about what is happening to the retired Supreme Court judge?
For sure, his rights have been seriously violated, and this is where human rights advocates like some of us have to come in to really advocate or put pressure to the government, because in this state of Cameroon we are governed by the Constitution of the Republic, where it is said that nobody will be intimidated. You benefit from a fair trial, and you cannot be arrested illegally or given the kind of treatment that somebody like Justice Ayapola was reserved. So I believe that his rights were grossly violated, and that government should have instead been on the side of trying to repair the damages that they have caused to him. You see that it was under his detention that his health became very fragile and he suffered so much, and I think government was instead supposed to compensate him. But it's however unfortunate that we live in a government which is evil, and if this could happen to Justice Ayapola, then imagine people who can call laymen who have no portfolio, what they may go through in this kind of scenario. So it's really hard to talk about this situation, but all I think is that all of us, we one day leave Cameroon, because nobody was born with it, and we have come to live, and we have to leave it. So those who have the opportunity to be at the affairs or manage that we can do, just to maybe accept and wait for the time of God to act.
Now, as you rightly said, for someone who has served the nation to the highest ladder to be treated this way, what more of a common man? Now, how can you qualify this injustice meted on the legal mind?
It's very cruel. I even lack words to qualify this kind of injustices, because imagine you being a lawyer and you try to maybe explain the situation to any maybe a colleague outside. He will tell you that you guys are weak in your country, or that your country is a no state law. And you being a lawyer trying to defend, you can't even defend this kind of case. So that's the highest peak of cruelty, and I think that this is where we want to see the human rights advocates. This is where we want to see all those bodies who maybe give funds to Cameroon, maybe to advocate for human rights, to really understand that those funds are falling into deaf ears, and that we are not doing anything with those funds, because we cannot be taking funds that we want to upgrade our human rights values, and we are instead seen penalizing or acting in cruelty vis-a-vis some other Cameroonians. I think that what is happening to Justice Ayapola is the peak of cruelty, and is against all norms, be it national or international.
Given that Cameroon is a state of law, we are hoping that the situation of former Justice Ayapol Ajinibine will be settled anytime soonest. And that's what put an end to today's edition of the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe Television. Thank you, Barrister Tamporicha, for being part of today's edition of the news. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your keen attention. Have a wonderful evening in the company of more interesting programs on Equinoxe Radio. Don't forget, up next is Equinoxe Soir. Stay with us if you can.